Hey, how's it going? Mrs. Stewart's here. What are the parts of a flower? Okay, so I'm going to kind of skip over that. We're going to learn about the parts of the flower from this video. This video right here. Like fruit? Thank a bee. So, yeah, I like watermelon. Thank you, bee. Okay, let's find out why, and we're going to find out the parts of a flower. All right, two jobs. The parts of a flower and why are we going to thank a bee?
It's summer where I live, and that means that it's almost time for some of my favorite kinds of fruit to be ready to eat, like strawberries, peaches, and cherries. And if you like fruit as much as I do, then do you know who you should thank for it? Bees! That's right! Bees do more than just make honey. They play an important part in helping us enjoy all kinds of yummy fruits. How? Well, last time we followed a honeybee as she went about her day, and one of the things that we learned was that her most important job was to find and get food. She did this by flying around lots of different flowers and collecting some of their sweet nectar. Let's take a look at one of those flowers now. If we look really closely at the flower, we can see that it has lots of different parts. You probably already know the name of one of these parts. If you said petals, you're right. The parts on the outside of the flower are called petals. But have a look at this part, inside the flower. It's called the stamen, and it makes a yellow dust that we call pollen.
Okay, so this part in here is called the stamen, and on top of these parts is where there's pollen. Okay, I'm going to move me so I can close this. Keep going.
If you carefully touch the top of this part of the flower, some of the yellow dust will probably come off on your finger. Pollen can also make some people sneeze, especially if there's a lot of it. But if you want to have fruit, you have to have pollen, because the pollen needs to travel from the stamen of one flower to a different part of another flower. And when it does, a tiny fruit will start to grow inside the flower. But where does the pollen have to go? It goes to this part of the flower called the pistil. It's kind of long and looks a little like a vase or a bowling pin. The very top of the pistil is kind of flat, and it's covered with sticky, gooey stuff that's almost like glue. If pollen touches this gooey, sticky stuff, it gets stuck. Then, little bits of the pollen move down into the bottom of the pistil. And when that happens, the bottom starts to grow and swell up. It gets bigger and changes color, and the petals of the flower fall off. What's left is what we call fruit. So, to get fruit, it's important that pollen gets moved from the stamen of one flower to the pistil of another flower, and that some pollen gets stuck to the top of the flower's pistil. And this whole process is called pollination.
Okay, so we learned about the different parts of the flower. We had the flower with the petals along the outside. There was the stamen, the pistil, the stigma. So now we're going to be hearing about bees. Why are bees important?
This is where bees come in. You might remember that bees get their food by drinking nectar from a flower. While a bee is moving around in a flower looking for that nectar, little bits of pollen from the stamen sticks to her legs, to her wings, and to her little fuzzy body. Then she flies off to another flower to get more food. And as the bee crawls all over the next flower, she bumps into the flower's pistil. So some of the pollen from the bee's body gets stuck to the top of the pistil. Then, if everything goes according to plan, in time, we'll get a nice piece of fruit. All of your favorite fruits start out this way, from tiny blueberries to giant watermelons. And bees aren't the only animals that pollinate flowers. Moths, butterflies, even bats and hummingbirds drink nectar from flowers.
Okay. Moths and butterflies are both a type of insect or bugs. So bugs help pollinate flowers just like the bee.
And when they do, they often carry pollen with them. But bees are some of the busiest and most important pollen carriers around. So the next time you enjoy a sweet summer treat like a peach or a cherry, you can thank a bee. Thanks for joining us on Science Kids. Do you have a question about insects or elephants or anything else? Get help from a grown-up and let us know. You can leave a comment below or send us an email at kids@thescishow.com. We'll see you next time here at the Sports.
See you later. She has so much energy. Like watching her videos. Okay, there we go. So, what were some of the words that were important? I'm going to go down here because I already have one. Okay, so some of those words that you might have heard, go back one, pollination, pistil, stamen, seeds, roots, stigma, because we are going to do a writing on how bees help pollinate flowers. Okay, so we're going to do a how-to. And I'll put that back up there for you and you can press pause. But what happens first in the process? Right, so the bee lands on the flower, and while she's eating nectar, the pollen sticks to her legs and her body and her wings. Then, so that's like I'm showing you the next step when I say that word then. Then she flies off to find another flower. Then what happens? Next, she lands on the flower and some of the pollen falls off her body or legs and lands on the pistil or the stigma, where the pollen goes down the pistil, and that's where the seeds start. Now, why would I include a picture of fruit? Right, because without pollination, there'd be no fruit, just like Mariana's problem. So pollination is really, really, really important, because if the pollination doesn't happen, the fruit doesn't happen. So it's watermelons, blueberries, even with the vegetables like tomatoes, squash, they have to have that pollination happen. And bugs are a big part of it, especially bees. So your job is going to be to write how, okay, so you're going to write an explanatory text. So you're going to explain how a bee pollinates flowers. You're going to teach somebody how bees pollinate flowers. So here we go. How do you know if you've done it right? Well, you'll answer the question or the prompt. So answer the prompt's question. I messed up on that. How do bees help pollinate flowers, or how does a bee help pollinate flowers? So you have a topic sentence. You're telling me what you're writing about. What are you writing about? Right, how bees help pollinate flowers. So you could start something like, bees help pollinate flowers, period. Okay, that's what you're going to be teaching us about. Use expert words correctly. You can't be like, the pollen sticks to the bee's pistil. Huh? Bees don't have pistils. Pistils belong on the flowers. Duh. Okay, so make sure you're using those expert words correctly, and you can define them too. Pollen. It's a powder-like substance. It's kind of yellow. Nectar. It's like is a sticky, sweet juice that attracts insects to the flower so they can eat it. Use simple and compound sentences. A simple sentence is, the bee lands on the flower. Okay? A more compound, the bee lands on the flower and pollen sticks to its body. That's a compound sentence. It's more, there's more information. I use like the word and, but, so, while. You can do it. And the next thing I want you to do is use transition words to show sequence. Also, it's going to show them more, but we kind of used it. First, the bee lands on the flower. Next, the pollen sticks to the bee. Then, the bee flies to the other one. Finally, pollen falls off the bee. But these words, first, then, next, finally. You can use those types of words to show things that happen in order. Okay, and then you have a conclusion. And it could be simple, something like, that's how bees help pollinate flowers. You're just wrapping it up and you're done. That's how bees pollinate flowers and how we get fruit. Okay? It's up to you, but your job is to teach how a bee helps pollinate flowers. Okay? So here you go. We had expert words, but here's our expert words. I'm going to escape out of here so that this is one that we wrote, but I am going to cut that and just put it over here. Okay, paste, just to keep it somewhere. Okay, it's supposed to be gone. Okay, I'm going to keep that somewhere. So there's some of your words that you have, like I said, first, next, then, and not then, and finally. The other one, than, is like when you're comparing two things. Then is like what's happening next. Okay, so here are some words. I didn't spell that one right, finally. Okay, so make sure that you're using these words. I'm going to scoot over and make this big again. Here we go. So what you're going to do, let me move this out of the way. Oh, how come I can't move it out of the way? Okay, there we go. I'm over here. Press pause. Okay, so press pause and go ahead and write. Take a picture of it so that I can see your writing, or when I come by, you can show it to me. Okay, let's see. I will show you an example. If you're done, so I want you to kind of try on your own. So press pause and then come back, and I'm going to show you this example. Okay, so this is one that our friends wrote. Bees help pollinate flowers. First, the bee lands on the flower, period. It drinks the nectar, period. While it is eating, the pollen sticks to its legs. Then it flies to another flower. The pollen gets off the bee's legs and goes on the stigma. The pollen helps the flower grow more fruits and vegetables. Bees are an important part of the pollination system. So this was written by one of our friends during our Zoom meeting. I really wish you could have been with us. Okay, but here you go. So this is the one video for today, and I'm going to do another one for you. Okay, so watch this one first and get your paper written, and then you'll have another one to watch. So if you need the words, there they are. You know how to use YouTube videos back and forth and pause. You're awesome. See you later, alligator.